Met. I'm the president for the Rotary Club of Harrisburg, and I invite you to join us for a traditional luncheon meeting, service on a Monday, or Rotary alternate meeting. Everyone's invited, and that means you. Check out our website or Facebook page for more information.
Without further ado, please welcome Craig Shuey.
Thank you, Ellen, very much. I appreciate the introduction. I do need to update that because that Governor's Transportation Commission goes back to Governor Corbett. So pretty clearly, we've got to make some adjustments. I think it'll be okay right there. So thank you, folks. I know, this is a limited amount of time, and despite the fact that some folks may believe the Turnpike is sort of a road and not a whole lot else, I've got a lot to talk about in this presentation, and probably no good way to squeeze it into this time frame. I understand 1 o'clock is sort of a hard stop for you guys, so I do want to leave some time for questions. I am ready whenever you guys are ready to pull that up there. Is it up? There we go. All right. I just want to sift through some of the really important parts, and then I know a lot of folks want to hear about all electronic tolling, toll collection, and all that fun stuff. But just wanted to point out we're a big system. And one that's been growing since our 1940 open. We're at 550 plus linear miles right now. And for winter time, that's 2,900 lane miles or snow lane miles that we're maintaining during a winter event. Obviously, you see there are a lot of different facilities, including the tunnels and bridges that we operate and maintain across the Commonwealth. We are generating $1.2 billion in revenue every year, which since I joined the commission has grown from approximately 419 million. So a lot of growth in revenue. Obviously, everybody knows the tolls have gone up. That's the primary reason, along with growth in travel and traffic over that time frame. We provide and have provided over $6 billion to the Commonwealth for transportation funding needs. Again, I'll get maybe into that and a little deeper into the question section. But we're a big part of the Commonwealth's community. 1,300 employees, about 500,000 people every day will travel on the commission. That's people and much more in freight. And $600 million in investment each year in our capital program. If you're from this area and you've seen the evolution of the Turnpike west of Carlisle, that is our system-wide total reconstruction effort in a very close proximity to what you guys are living with. Big improvements to the way the road is set up. Obviously, we were built in 1940 before the interstate standards had even been considered. We were the first model. Some of the things that we did that folks found to be problematic over time were corrected and built into the new interstate system, but we were living with a lot of those sharp curves, narrow roadway in certain places, all being built out right now to try to accommodate a much more modernized system across the Commonwealth. Safety is a huge piece of what we do. And a probably unknown fact for all of you is that we're about 50% safer than similar interstates anywhere in the country. And the reason for that I attribute to the attention to detail that we put on the roadway. Our crews are trained to clear crashes quickly. We have been monitoring for the last 10 years how we're doing in that space and working to lower the time in a crash, because to my way of thinking and to the commissions in general, no one ever expects to stop on an interstate highway. And so the less time that we spend in your way, the less likelihood there are going to be crashes. So we work very hard to try to improve our work zones, to manage those work zones, to manage crashes effectively, and try to clear incidents as quickly as is possible. And we do that in a very integrated way. We have relationships with towers. We have relationships with local fire and EMS. We pay local fire and EMS an annual stipend to be an associated, affiliated member with us so that we get quick communication, clear communication, and we work together as a team to clear incidents and to improve the overall traffic conditions system-wide. Again, a note there, we've definitely done some good stuff as neighbors. Our evolution to open road tolling is a part of that. We're going to be able to open the system across Pennsylvania in a way that we've never been able to do because of the cash tolling system and the way that that impacted how you could build out a new interchange. Is anybody familiar with the Malvern exit or Route 29 in Chester County? Anybody remember what it looked like prior to the roadway going in or the interchange going in? That's probably the best example of what all electronic tolling can do for a community from an economic development standpoint. We are a closed and have been a closed system since 1940. If you look at our system based on the number of interchanges across the state, there's far fewer of them than there would be on a regular interstate just because of those complications with tolling. That goes away under all electronic and open road tolling. We will be able to add interchanges as communities want to provide access to places along the system that don't have access. One example, maybe if you're familiar with the western part of the state, from Bedford to Somerset is 35 miles long. There's nowhere in the country with an interstate section that's that long between interstates or between interchanges. So things can change in that regard. We don't have direct connections to other interstates. 81, 83 is still connected by an interchange, not a direct connect. Those things were prohibited by federal law and may be able to be changed under open road tolling that will allow us better access, more free-flowing freight access. Carlisle is a really good example of what happens when you've got to push all that freight traffic off onto a local, in this case, a US highway, but Route 11 to get to its next point. A lot of things can be done more efficiently over time with that new tolling methodology. We're working to be more sustainable. We've got a project right now that's pretty exciting. We're building a new section of roadway out in Pittsburgh called the Monfayette Expressway. We're preparing to include a section of inductive toll or inductive charging in that road. Very new stuff that would be allowed. It would show a test bed for charging while in motion. Things like tractor trailers that could be electric in the future will be able to charge as they drive across the road, just as you now put your cell phone on a wireless charger and have it charged that way. So we're working on some very inventive new things there. We're working very hard to manage our stormwater better and designing new systems to make sure that we are a much better part of the environment than we may have been in the future or in the past. We've recognized our role as a transportation provider in providing access, and the dark side of that being human trafficking and the fact that there may be people who are in danger or being trafficked across our system. So we've created some new awareness tools. We've trained our employees. We're working very hard to be a leader in that space to ensure that people crossing our roadway are not falling into or part of that trafficked world. Again, we're in some ways we are restoring the old and constructing the new. As I said, we were open in 1940, and so we're rebuilding a part of the system. But we're building new roads as a part of some legislative initiatives in Western Pennsylvania. We're building new interchanges across the system, which we think will again open up those communities and open up us to new concepts and new traffic. We're connecting the entire system by fiber optic. We've got a project now that's installing fiber optic along the entire main line of the system. It has been completed almost to the office in Harrisburg from the New Jersey line. It's working its way up the northeastern extension and will continue across the Commonwealth. The idea there is to provide us with the information technology resources we need, but also provide a hub for communities to tap into to be able to utilize and have access to high-speed internet, where in some places in rural Pennsylvania, it's still a very hard thing to come by. We've made some progress on total reconstruction. This map kind of shows where that is. You guys are living in sort of the heart of that. As the original turnpike went from Carlisle to Irwin, that's the oldest section, the most curvy section, the most, in some cases, dangerous section because of the old geometry. So it's gotten a lot of attention, but you'll notice to the east, we're beginning to move through some new projects there. If you've ever noticed, as you drive the eastern part of the state, you'll see that we're repaving, but that it seems like in a few years, that pavement isn't holding up as well. Well, the old roadbed is built on a substrate of sand basically. The joints in the concrete will continue to heave over winters. We'll go in, cut the joints, refill the joints, replace the asphalt surface. It simply isn't holding up any longer. We used to be able to get 7, 8, 10 years out of an asphalt overlay, but because of that underlying structure, we're seeing those joints reheaving in 2, 3 years. And so we know we need to work our way across the state and reconstruct it, and that's part of this total reconstruction program. This is the typical geometry of a new roadway versus the old on top. You can see much more space, creates a much better ride, accommodates future capacity needs. It's definitely a safer environment, and those inside shoulder widths and outside shoulder widths allow for incidents to clear quicker and for traffic to be maintained throughout an incident to ensure that we continue to provide good service. There's the fiber project, which I already described. I know a lot of folks wanted to talk about all electronic tolling, and I'll certainly leave some time for questions on that. But we started that project in 2012. We went through a systematic study to determine its feasibility. The tolling industry at that time was just beginning to convert systems. All electronic tolling had been used much prior to this in new systems. So places like the Dulles Toll Road started out with mostly electronic with some side booths to consider. Texas and California did everything all electronic from the beginning. They never created toll booths. So we started to see an evolution in that space. Big old style tolling systems are the hardest to convert. The New York Thruway, the New Jersey Turnpike, the Pennsylvania Turnpike were all difficult build outs because of the way we were set up and the way that we achieved tolling. We went through I think, systematic process to look at each location where we could start it out. Started with the Delaware River Bridge, did some of the extensions in the west, converted pieces of the northeastern extension to electronic tolling, and eventually in 2020 went ahead with a full conversion that was hastened by the pandemic and what was happening with the ability to continue to do cash collection during the COVID-19 crisis. The reason why, Easy Pass is 86.9% of our traffic. So almost all of our customers on a regular basis are using that technology. It's higher in the east. It was lower in the west and central, but those numbers have ticked up and the average across the system is relatively consistent at this point. 13.1% are now getting a toll by plate invoice. And that's where that, as you've heard gee, we're not getting paid for millions and millions of dollars. That's where that lies for the most part. The 86.9% is a paid transaction for us. We have an account with those folks. They get the lowest price. And the reason for that is that the security of our payment is very high. The risk is very low. When we have to invoice, there's a lot more work involved, a lot more manual processes that come into play, and we are still chasing folks down for that revenue. The reason the toll rate is so much higher for toll by plate than Easy Pass is that risk. We know that we're only going to get paid by a certain percentage of the folks who are getting a toll by plate invoice. And we honestly made the conscious decision in setting those toll rates to not penalize the Easy Pass customer. They've given us an account, they've signed up for us, they've followed a process. And while we could have rolled that across everybody more evenly, we made a choice that we're going to give the customer a way to get the lowest price with that risk limited for us. And unfortunately, that means that you've got to put that burden on the toll by plate customer. And we're seeing a steady uptick even now at 86.9% in the folks that are rolling into the Easy Pass accounts. We give everybody an option. When you get a bill from us, there's a QR code that's new. That's one of our new improvements. It'll take you right to your invoice. There's an option to make a call. There's an option to go online. You can, for the trips that you've already acquired with us, you can get the Easy Pass rate. You just have to agree to sign up for the Easy Pass program. And it's working nationwide. There's over 32 million Easy Pass accounts nationwide that represent 19 states, everything from Maine to Florida. and now all the way out to Minneapolis. We're getting 93.4% of our revenue. That's what's being brought in by Easy Pass and the folks that are paying their toll by plate bills, which looks like a significant loss there. And it is. It's something we're continuing to work on. It is consistent. From the time we did the first pilot project to now, essentially that number is about the same. The only thing that's really changed for us is that the Easy Pass percentage has gone up from about 80% when we had our first pilot to now the 86.9%. We thought when we started the process that 80% was about as much as you were going to get. The industry experts, the other toll experience or toll agencies that we talked with said that's about what you're going to get. We've been pleasantly surprised and are continuing to work on that percentage to get it up. But it does grow each year. Quite frankly, and unfortunately, what's growing is the folks who used to be in the category of getting an invoice and paying it are now moving to Easy Pass. And so we are seeing a little bit of a stretch in the folks that are getting invoices and not paying. We're getting more of the people who are willing to pay us for the trip on the roadway. Enforcement is going to end up being the key to trying to get to a better result there. Again, 86.9 is your Easy Pass paid transactions. The 13.1% is the non-Easy Pass. Let me go back to that one for just a second. Everything in the purple and blue is essentially what we've gotten paid for. The stuff that's in the yellow, the 4.4% is what we've invoiced somebody and haven't seen a payment for over a course of about 150 days. The way we run this program of analysis is we look at the same period of time each year. So each month we move the whole clock ahead 1 month and we look back at the data that we've got. We're looking for gaps, we're looking for changes, we're looking for anything within the in the system that may end up showing us, hey, we've got a problem. But we do this every month, and it's that 4.4% that we're seeing that we're not getting a payment from. They're getting an invoice. And then the other 1.8% are things like license plates aren't valid. Information that we have from a DMV isn't accurate. We may find people who are between homes. They may not have their registrations updated to where they are. A bill will go into the mail and we'll get it back. License plates being covered intentionally is one small part of that. License plates being covered unintentionally by bike racks and other things like that are part of that as well. But we're working on all of those segments in that 4.4 and 1.8% to try to analyze it a little more. And these slides here are pieces of our revenue assurance plan. This is the documentation that we use and go through each month to validate what we're doing and what we're seeing and trying to work on solutions for knocking that down. I'm going to skip ahead a little bit because I want to show you the graph. This is essentially what happens with a transaction, an invoice transaction. In about 30 days, we're getting 43.7%. It grows after 60 days to 53%. At that point, it's gone to collections. At that point, we're seeking another way to get to those folks, to get them to be paid, get those bills paid. But out at 150 days, it doesn't grow that much. It goes up to about 58.6%. I have seen, and we monitor it beyond that, but 150 days is sort of if we're going to measure these things on a consistent basis, we want to keep using the same data. We do have a chart that follows it from the first week of all electronic tolling conversion to today. And I'm seeing numbers in the 70 and 72% of those being collected, but it's out over many, many months to get those back. But we're continuing to chase it. We're continuing to work to try to get those things paid. And in some cases, we're moving to some more heavy enforcement roles that the legislature just gave us some new authority to suspend registrations for folks up to $250 or 4 unpaid invoices. That's a broad new feature that allows us to get people a little earlier in the owed toll process, which honestly makes it easier to collect. When we started the process, we had a large number of folks owing us well over $2,000 to $3,000. We've had criminal cases against folks who've owed us as much as $90,000. These are folks that were either faking their accounts or running fake plates, giving us fake information, all those sorts of things. Till we track them down, those numbers can be huge. And commercials can be very big. Commercial fraud on the Turnpike didn't start with electronic tolling. Truckers have been trading tickets and creating their own ways to get around tolls since the beginning of the Turnpike. But we are seeing, more and more fraud. You may have seen some articles recently. We participated in a investigation with the FBI, and they're going after some folks. Those folks were committing a deliberate fraud accounts. They were opening Easy Pass accounts in fake names with fake credit cards, and they were selling those tags. Those tags are used nationwide and creating some very short-term mobility for folks to run for free until each tag is taken down. It's not ironic, but it is interesting that this weekend I received an email from some of my fellow toll operators asking, they were seeing the same types of fraud questions in their systems. And I think the entire industry is going to have to look a little deeper at how to mitigate that fraud. But these are things that we've started to take on. We're working with the state police on more enforcement. We're looking to try to get some ability with them to pull over folks who can be noted, whose license plates can be noted as folks that aren't paying us. We're looking for some support in going after folks that have their plates covered. The dark cover, the license plate that's got the Pennsylvania knocked out of it because there's a license plate surround. Maybe a few people will take their Eagles things off this weekend. I'm not sure, but those are the kinds of things that do create some tolling issues, and they're not legal. You're not allowed to have your license, the state on your license plate covered, but many people do. So we're trying to make sure that those things get covered. We're trying to become more friendly, creating more options. A Kubra network that we just opened up is a retail payment network that you can go to Dollar General, CVS, a whole variety of different locations and pay your bill. It makes it easier for folks who don't have a bank account, don't have a credit card, don't have an easy way to pay us electronically, can manage their accounts. We reworked the entire invoice, 5 minutes, all right. We reworked the entire invoice to try to make it easier to understand in hopes that we could get more toll payments. A lot of these things have been done in the last 6 months, and we're just now trying to figure out how useful were they. You see there's a category impact column on the end there. We don't know yet how effective all these things have been, but we're trying to work them in and figure out how much value we got out of it. Again, all of it trying to bring those percentage numbers down and ensure that we get a full collection across the system. I'm going to skip ahead. I just want to show you the all electronic tolling, or the over the road tolling system. You're probably starting to see these little huts being built along the roadway from the east of here to Morgantown. That's the first phase of the open road tolling system that will eventually replace the tolling system that still exists at the lane side. And when that's done, that's when we can really open up the system to ensure that we're able to capture the toll at the roadside and not use the lane equipment any longer. Huge benefits for this system-wide. It creates all that opportunity that I talked about. It's safer. You're no longer weaving through narrow toll booth lanes to get to the system. It creates a better way once those toll booths are out of the way for us to manage traffic. Better for the environment. That was the stuff I needed to give you. I hope I left a few minutes for questions and conversations. I'm happy to answer and entertain anything you guys have for me. Yes, sir. I can hear you.
That was a very nice presentation. Thank you very much. I myself don't know much about that Easy Pass, and I'm getting ready to leave and go out to California. Now, if I get that Easy Pass, can I go all the way like to Pittsburgh and then?
Easy Pass is a association of all of the toll agencies in the Northeast. That's where it started, but it's expanded beyond that. So for your trip to California, if you're using I-80, it will get you all your tolls in Ohio, Illinois, Indiana, Illinois. And then if you were to happen to go up into Minnesota, it's in there, but those are basically commuter lanes that haven't opened yet in Minnesota. Once you leave that part of the US and enter into California, and that's really the next place other than a few toll roads in Colorado, where you're going to encounter tolling. At this point, we are not interoperable with California. We're working on that now. But you can go from Florida to Maine and use any toll road system in there, and your Easy Pass will work.
Does that cover bridges and tunnels and things like that?
The only one I'm aware of in the space in between there that's not covered is the Mackinac Bridge into Canada. We haven't gotten them yet.
Thank you very much.
Char?
How is the commission dealing with the impact on the environment in terms of deforestation and surface water changing? And kind of on the same note, was the commission able to absorb a good many of the jobs lost of the ticket takers?
Sure. First question is, it really is about how we've managed to change the way that we build the roads and the way that we are managing that stormwater. Our biggest impact to the environment on a daily basis is the stormwater management, because that's when we have a big storm, and we're all aware that we're seeing storms come in. I think we've had 500-year floods in the central Pennsylvania area 3 or 4 times since I became chief operating officer. So that is increasing, and we're changing the way that we're managing those stormwater basins. They are requirements of us to build the highway. There's a whole process that we follow. We have to be permitted by the DEP in order to build those systems, but we're trying to make them more effective. Essentially, we don't want to just get the permit and then move on, because these systems, in order for them to work, need to be managed. They're not just holes along the side of the road that will fill up with water and drain effectively unless they're managed. So we've created a whole process internally to look at each of those basins and ensure that the way they were designed to work, some of them are infiltration, meaning they're designed for the water to flow through a series of aquifer protection to get back into the water table. Some of them are retention basins, meaning they're designed to hold water until they get to a certain height, and then the water will drain out again. But none of them work well unless they're managed well. You can't bring a heavy piece of equipment in and roll over those basins and not affect the way they perform. So we're really managing that. We're training our personnel to be better at dealing with the way those are set up. We had instances where some of the vegetation that was put into these things for the purpose of absorbing water were being cut down because someone thought they were weeds. Someone thought they were that wasn't part of the system. And now we're more actively managing that. That's one way. We're also doing a lot with electrification, trying to be prepared for that. We've added some solar to some of our systems. And again, this is just the beginning for that. The environmental stuff will be a while. I'll just finish with this one thing. I'm about to get cut off here. But unfortunately, the layoff part of the all electronic tolling was the worst part of it. It was known for a very long period of time that we were going to do it. We provided a variety of tools to the employees to re-educate themselves, to try to find additional work. We opened our tuition reimbursement program to everything. So any career opportunity that somebody could take, any path they could take, they would be open for. We had people trained to be card dealers at the casinos. We had people become nurses. So there was a whole bunch of different opportunities to folks. But in the end, unfortunately, the way it came about, there was about 400 folks who were laid off. About 100 were able to work their way back into the system, being rehired into positions that we created as a result of this. There were some folks who were doing toll collector duty and interchange management duty, and we folded some positions together to allow those folks, some of the folks, to come back into there. A lot of folks became equipment operators and are plowing roads for us now. But a good portion of that 400 did not come back to us. It was just an unfortunate reality of the way that came about. They were spread all across the Commonwealth. There wasn't one single location for them to really be reabsorbed back into. And we don't, unlike some other toll agencies, we don't operate a transit system. A lot of folks that have gone all electronic have been able to weave those folks into their transit systems, and we're simply not set up that way. I think I'm out of time, but I'll hang out. So if anybody's got a question that they want to hit me with, I'll be happy to try to answer it. I know that was fast. That's a lot of information. I just hope you leave with an understanding that Turnpike is a little bit different, perhaps than you thought it was, a little more complex. It's a fun place. So if you're interested in, if you know folks interested in transportation, engineers, IT professionals, we feel ourselves to be a very progressive organization when it comes to treating employees well, and to bringing in the best and brightest. So I'm hoping that you see the Turnpike for the way I see it, and that you enjoy the next ride that you have on the road. So, thank you.